Hey everybody, it's me, Margot. Today is Sunday, April 5th, and I'm doing an update and a little bit of a blurb on the East Coast meet and greet. So, hope you're all doing well. Last week I put together just some pictures from the meet and greet that I had taken of my friends and me, and had a great time. But I'm going to start with my stats, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Today is Sunday. This is my 50th week update. And so 2 more weeks I'll be in my surgiversary, which is really hard to wrap my head around because it seems like, in some ways it seems like yesterday that I had this surgery, and in some ways it feels like 20 years ago that I had this surgery. So time's kind of a weird thing that way. Last time I weighed in, I was 178. I think that was a couple of weeks ago. Today I was 176.8, so I've lost 1.2 pounds since then. My total pounds lost since I've had my surgery, well, my starting weight was 324. My surgery weight was 284.8, and then so I've lost a total of 147.2 pounds, bringing my BMI down to 2.9 or 29.4. My BMI was at 53.9, so that's quite a bit of a jump. I'm happy with the results. I'm amazed that I'm still losing. This last week I only exercised once or twice, so it's a good thing that I still was able to lose. With this job that I have now, which is pretty intense and quite stressful, I don't have time to eat, so I think that's a good thing in terms of not, being so obsessed and I can't focus on the food, which is good. Sometimes when you're sitting there and you're bored, you're kind of snacking. I'm not snacking at all anymore, and I think that's made a difference in this week's weigh-in. I've got a little bit of a miracle story to tell you guys. What started out as a really serious inconvenience for me when I was trying to come home from the East Coast meet and greet from Allentown, Pennsylvania, actually turned into a miracle. And let me just tell you, some of you saw me off. I left Sunday morning about 11:30. My flight was at 1 to fly out of Allentown. I flew right into Lehigh Valley to fly out of Allentown to connect in Chicago, and then fly from Chicago to the Milwaukee area where I live. Well, when I got to the airport, my flight was delayed, and I'm like, oh, bummer. They said, oh, it'll be about 15 minutes delayed. I'm like, oh, that's no big deal. They can make that time up in the air and then some. So I just sat there and kind of waited. Then I heard a couple of the gate people speaking, oh, there's, technical problems, and I'm always a little leery about that. I've gotten in planes that have had slight technical problems. Things probably more of an inconvenience to the passengers than it is to the overall safety, but this was kind of a safety issue. They were having issues with the nose gear, which is, the plane's ability to steer. So what it turned out to be, they thought was going to be like a 15-minute delay, ended up being a pretty serious delay. About 45 minutes after that initial 15-minute delay, they said, oh, we're going to have to bring someone in who can fix this nose gear. It's going to be another hour. We're like, oh, okay. And I went to the gate and I said, is there a later flight to Chicago that I can catch? They're like, well, there is one at 6:50, but you'll be long gone by then. I wasn't. So my 1 o'clock flight, they loaded us all in. They got it fixed, the nose gear fixed. They got us all in. We went and did a little bit of taxiing on the runway and got to not quite to where we were supposed to go, and all of a sudden the nose gear locked up again. We're like, oh, sorry folks, looks like this hasn't been fixed. We're going to have to go back to the gate. Now, I love children. I love babies. But I need to tell you that I'm not a nice person when it comes to babies flying, because I think part of it is I'm too softy of a heart. I have too soft of a heart. I get so sad when they're crying because I know there's a little pressure in their ears. When my kids were little and we flew, I always gave them a little bit of Benadryl. I mean, it was horrible to say. Some people are like, oh, you're giving your kids doggy dozers. I'm like, well, in a way I did tranquilize them, but that decongestion helps the pressure in their little ears as well. Well, I sat next to a woman with a little baby, and I had a baby in back of me. So this one's kicking me, and this one's kicking me. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little tough. Excuse me. So I put my iPod in and kind of go into my Zen place, so whatever. And we sat actually on the runway for a little bit before they said, oh, looks like we have to head back. So then we headed back to the gate. We all got out. Mind you, now the babies are both asleep. I'm like, great. Now during the break while we're here in the airport, when they can run around and stuff, they're asleep. But that's neither here nor there. So it stretched into another hour, and then yay, they fixed it. We're going to load back up. We'll head into Chicago soon enough. So we all load up in the plane again. Everybody's a little ornery, a little tired, but just happy to be back on the plane. We're We taxi to where we're supposed to go. We're just about, I can hear the engine go, like they're just about getting ready to take off. Miracle of miracles, and I say that now, I didn't think this at the time. It starts to hail and storm. I mean, it was a really bad storm for any of you who stayed there longer. I don't know what time it was at this point, but it was a bad, bad storm. Hail's coming down. It was small, a little pea-sized hail, but hail nonetheless, and you can't fly apparently in this. Ladies and gentlemen, announcement comes over the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry, but due to the inclement weather, we have to stay grounded for now. Everybody's like, you've got to be kidding me. So they said it'll be about 45 minutes till this frontage passes. So as we're sitting there, and we're seeing the water, the rain get a little lighter. I'm seeing a plane take off. I'm seeing a plane land. I'm seeing a plane take off, and I'm like, I'm seeing sun over there. I'm not thinking the weather's too bad. Why aren't we taking off? And I said to the gal next to me, I said, it's this nose gear thing. They're having problems again. And while we're sitting there on the runway waiting, you'd feel the plane like moving like this. And it wasn't the weather that was moving. So I'm like, they're working on that up there. We can't see it because all of us are in the plane. They're working on this nose gear thing. It's not good. So they said, ladies and gentlemen, we're having problems with the nose gear. We could take off, but please stay in your seats. We shouldn't be more than an hour. 2.5 hours later, we were in our seats. They made us stay in the seats, belted in. I don't know why. It was because we were on some kind of active whatever. Anyway, come to find out, they can't fix it. I'm sorry, this flight's been canceled. The guy who's got a Palm Pilot 2 seats over to me, he goes, they canceled the flight. People were getting emails saying the flight's canceled before they even announced it on the plane. We're like, great. Quite honestly, at that point, I'm like, get me off the plane. I don't care if it's canceled or not. You're going to find another one for me and get me off this plane. We're all pretty frazzled. We're tired. I take that Dramamine because I get motion sickness, so I'm like, half out of it and I'm exhausted. The babies, really, the last hour of us sitting on that runway, the babies were screaming. I mean, it was like complete mayhem. It was like something that you watch on 2020. It was just like, I cannot believe this is happening. And then my iPod dies. I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Anyway, so we're sitting there, and we go back to the gate, and then we immediately get our luggage as soon as we can. We go down, and we're going to have to reticket you. There's no flights whatsoever, anywhere, anyhow, going into Milwaukee that night. I'm like, you don't understand. I have a business meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock that I can't miss. We're sorry, ma'am, there's nothing. I said, you can fly me to LA to Milwaukee. You can fly me to Dallas to Milwaukee or Chicago. I even found a gal that had a meeting that she had to go to. We were going to fly into Chicago on another flight, another airline, and then rent a car and drive the hour and a half up to Milwaukee. No, nothing's panning out. So I was really ticked off, and they said, we're going to put you up in a hotel. I'm like, great, fine, whatever. And what it came down to basically was, after I got to the hotel, and there were several other people from the flight there, I sat around and I said, you know what? We were about to take off on that runway. If that hail had not come, we would have gone on the runway. We would have taken off. I had asked the flight attendant, and it didn't really register with me until probably that moment at the hotel. I said, what would have happened if we took off in the plane and the hail hadn't come? What would have happened if the nose gear jammed over in the air? And she said, we would not have been able to land the plane. I'm like, well, what do you mean? She said, you have to have the nose gear to steer the plane to land. I said, you're saying we would have crashed? And you never hear people in airlines talk like this. She said nothing. So if that hail had not come, if that storm had not come, I probably would have been on a plane that crashed. So I thanked the Lord. I believe that God was looking out for us. I believe He sent the rain and the hail, and I even mentioned that to some of my fellow passengers. Then we all were kind of a little bit in shock. So I ended up staying overnight in a hotel in Allentown and took off the next morning, just happy to get off the ground and get home safe and sound. So my boss was a little ticked off. I didn't really have any vacation time or personal time accumulated because I had just started my job, but those things happen, and quite honestly, I've been putting in enough hours that I'm making up the time. But I just thought I'd share a little miracle with all of you. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you have a great week. Keep those videos coming, and I'll talk to you real soon.